Good morning, Authortube, BookTube, YouTube, all the tubes. Back again, yes, like I said in the last video, I am now determined to keep this going. I've managed to look at my schedule during the week, and a lot of people will understand. Obviously, if you've got other things going on, work, family commitments, etc., etc., it's very difficult to find the time to actually sit down when it's quiet and get your recording done. And obviously I've been trying to get this sorted out for years, but I looked at my week over the weekend and thought to myself, I can fit it in, I can sort it out. And then obviously I can pre-record stuff and schedule it and put it out later in the week or something like that, because I think maybe one or two videos is going to be easy enough for me to do. I'm not really going to be going into any kind of like fancy editing or any of that kind of thing, so really it will just literally be record, put it up onto the computer, add the titles, upload and get it onto YouTube. I'm not, at the moment anyway, I'm not really going to go into any of that. It's all natural lighting, it's just the camera and just me talking, so I'm not really going to go crazy with things at the moment. So but anyone who's got any commitments will understand. I mean, I've got 4 children, so finding the time to, finding the quiet time to sit down and do the recordings is really difficult sometimes. But like I said, I've managed to squeeze it into the week. I know exactly what I'm doing now, and I'll keep going with it. I'm hoping to do about 2 or 3 today. This one's going to be another kind of history one. Just going to go back and have a quick chat about that, and I really want to try and get one of those screen recorded editing videos up, because I have an idea about that as well. I realised that Friday evening I was working away on a small paragraph in my current work, and I in my books or in my edits I put down the initials RR, and to me it's not a proper representation, but to me that means rearrange. That means I need to go in and I need to spin the sentence round or turn it on its head or etc., that kind of thing, so that because something about it's not sitting right, and I do that a lot. And I also put BET in brackets or parenthesis, however you want to call it. BET, and that stands for better. And my edits are littered with this stuff. It's always RR, BET, things like that. And there's arrows like going everywhere and scribbles here and etc., which is normal, obviously. But I'll actually give you a screen recorded kind of example of it. I'll voice over and show you that as well, because that's quite interesting to me. Because one thing we've got to learn about this entire process, like everything to do with writing, right from the beginning, is subjective. You've got to remember that word, okay? Subjective. And it's very important, because this literally is the definition of subjective. This is so personal to the author and even the readers, and it really is so personal. So no sentence will be written the same. Like, this is really hard to put into words actually, but I know a lot of you will understand what I'm getting at straight away. It's kind of like I'll write a sentence in the book. To me it means something. It's there for a very specific reason, etc. And then you pick 10 readers, okay? Each one of them reads that same sentence, but it still means something different to each and every one of them. It's subjective so much. Reading and writing is like the most subjective thing, one of the most subjective things. So it's like when you listen to a song, the feelings that you get from that song will be different than the feeling someone else gets from that song, So same with books, same with art, same with all that creative side of things. It's yes, subjective. The word of the day. Okay. Right. So go back in history, and first of all, you need to see something funny. I think maybe the word. I'll put them in now. I hope that wasn't too scary. I really do. There's some things you just can't unsee, as the saying goes. But the first one was too far back. That was too far back. The middle one, again, too far back. The whatever was going on with my crazy curly long hair at the time, it was round about the right kind of time for the first book to come out. And we can also touch on inspiration with this as well, because a lot of people, I mean, I just literally think of story ideas constantly, like literally every day. I'll have different storylines pop into my head. They'll either, this is how you feel, or how I feel to them. They're either very good and they deserve more thought. Okay, so they get put into kind of like the yes, think about that kind of pile. They are good, but it's not quite there yet, so you need to kind of, it just floats around for a bit more maybe, and then comes back again and it goes into the other pile. Or you add it into a current story. Sometimes there's little kind of bits. It's not a full story, but you think, oh, actually, my character from such and such a book or such and such a series, that would be perfect. So it gets added to a current work or future work. Or you just think, no, that's just really like, no, it's not going to happen. But it was good why you thought of it, and then, you know, it goes away. And goes like that. So when I started writing, I actually drew this picture. I was knocking around with 3D software on my computer, like designing things, 3D modelling and art. So you kind of like, you know, you build something, design something on the screen, and then you can kind of choose how it, you know, like the textures of the models, and you render it. Just basically means you add the colour and the textures and everything like that. And I drew this kind of science fiction picture. I still have it somewhere. It's somewhere lying around. It's very important to me, that picture. So I had this kind of spaceship, I think, and it was landing on this planet. And I thought, well, I need a bit of a backstory, you know, just for the picture. Why is this happening? I think I wrote about 5 or 6 lines or something along there. It wasn't very much. And it was basically, you know, who was on the spaceship? Why were they landing on the planet? What was the reason for it? And then from that, and like I say, it was literally only about 5 or 6 lines, probably was even less actually, come to think of it. From that story, that little snippet and that picture, I wrote a science fiction trilogy. It was the first thing that I published years ago. And like I said, I used a company called iUniverse back then. I think they're still running. I mean, you could check them out. I don't know what they're doing nowadays, but if you want to check them out, you know, I never had any problem with them years ago. You know, all my books went out on Amazon and etc. and showed up on, you know, the different websites, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those kind of places. So if you do want to check them out and see if they're good for you, then please do. I never had any problems with them whatsoever. But yeah, that was back in like 2002 or something like that. And like I say, it's a bit of a, I don't even know what the word is. It's a bit of an adventure or a task for me to, you know, yeah, I'm going to get into this writing thing. I've enjoyed it. I'm really going to give it a good shot. Oh, I know. Let's start with a science fiction trilogy. You know, I mean, like I say, a bit of an undertaking, but I did it. There was a break for some reason between books 2 and 3 where I rather quickly, and I will say I'm not I'm proud of every piece of writing I've ever done, because you should be. It doesn't matter if it is absolute garbage. The fact that you've sat down and, you know, taken the time to get the pen to the paper or the fingers to the keyboard, etc., whatever, the fact that you've sat down and put that commitment and time in is always something to be proud of. You should always be proud of that. Like I say, it doesn't matter if the work is absolute trash. You've proven to yourself that you can sit down and you can go for it. Okay, so be proud of everything, every single word. Okay, but like I say, between the books 2 and 3 of this science fiction trilogy, I kind of went off in a completely crazy tangent, and I wrote a book about being a football fan. And when I say football, I'm talking about the English sense of the word. So in a lot of other countries, that would be soccer, or I think that's it. I think it's just football and soccer, isn't it? But yeah, I wrote a book about being a football fan, which, I mean, I was a football fan back then. I was quite into it. And I don't know, it's just, like I say, I just went off on this tangent. I had this story in my head. I was like, yeah, okay, let's go for it. And like I say, I don't regret any of my writing, but I don't think it was the right time for me to kind of disappear off and do a completely new book. I think I should have maybe left it and let it swirl around for a bit more. But anyway, so that's back there. That's kind of start of that timeline when I started it all. They're out of print at the moment because I took them off when I changed my whole system around. I left our universe and etc. So they're out of print, but I do want to get the science fiction back in print. So obviously it'll be just a case of getting the older books, which I think I have got copies of all of them somewhere. They're lying around somewhere in a box or whatever. They'll be on a shelf somewhere. And, you know, I'll edit them. I'll completely edit them and change them, and, you know, it'll be like republishing it kind of new, but the base is there. But I do want to get them out because they're really important to me, as you can imagine, like the first ever books. Not so much the football one, that probably won't ever come back, but, you know, it's there. It's part of my writing history, my name's on it, etc. It still shows up on some of the websites. I think it still shows up on Amazon and places, so it's there. And then I'm just trying to think now. There's a contemporary book called Banana Skins on the Table, which is definitely coming back out because that was very good. That was a good book. Like I said, it's contemporary, kind of like modern, set from the viewpoint of the main character called Nathan. And it was kind of like, I don't even know, I mean, if there's like a version, you know, if there's an equivalent to chick lit, you know, for the male, like, you know, man lit or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to label it like that because it's not, but it is kind of like, you know, about this 20-something bloke, and he's kind of has this weird midlife, not even a midlife crisis, is it? It's like an early kind of awakening type of thing to his life, and he's just like, my life's rubbish, what can I do about it? So he starts to just do all these stupid things, you know, he's like, I don't like this, so I'm going to change it, I'm going to mould my life to make me happy, that's the way I'm going to do it. And you know, and he kind of like, it just becomes his goal to change his life however he can to make himself happy. He doesn't care who he annoys on the way, or... Wow, did you hear that? If you didn't hear that, that was an actual cat fight on the roof there. Brilliant. Yeah, this guy Nathan. So yeah, he just kind of changes his life. You know, I think I remember specifically there's one where he goes in to see his boss at work, and he goes up to his boss and he just says, I don't trust banks anymore. And the boss is like, right, I don't, what's your point? So he says, well, I don't trust banks anymore. I think they're, you know, they're an institution that I don't put any, you know, I don't put any stock into them. I've lost my trust with banks, etc. You now must pay me cash. instead of giving it to me, putting it in my bank. I want it in cash. And you know, just silly things like that. Even if he doesn't think he's going to get the answer he wants, he'll try it anyway. He'll just do it because he's got this, like I say, kind of got this thing where he just doesn't care as long as it leads to his happiness. So, but there's obviously a twist at the end. I put a twist in there, and there's some girlfriend stuff going on as well, and all these other kind of things. So it's that was a lot of fun. That really was a lot of fun, because I think at the time I was like mid-20s, early 20s, whatever I was. So it kind of was a I don't know. I don't know if it was like something that I wanted to do, or kind of like I was just like, I should do this. Hang on a second, guys. Hang on a second. Right, there's a bit of a cut there. I had a phone call, as you probably heard, unless I cut it out. But I had a phone call, so I took that. Okay, yeah. So banana skins on the table. Yeah, that's definitely coming back out. And then just to finish off this one before we go. I realised as well that what I would like to do with some of my books was kind of help charities, you know, be it through sales. I mean, I wasn't selling any books, don't get me wrong, I wasn't selling any books anyway, because self-publishing back in the early, you know, the turn of the century type of thing. Oh, wow, that makes you sound really old, doesn't it? Turn of the century. You still think, does anyone else still think of like the 1900s instead of 2000 when you say that? That's weird, because I did. Turn of the century, I immediately went back to Victorian times, when you shouldn't, should you? You should go 2000. Anyway, yeah, because like self-publishing was so new back then, like really new. And before that was a thing called vanity publishing, which was really, really bad. It was like thousands of pounds. I think I looked at one, I know specifically, I looked at one, and it cost £3,000, like 3,000 English pounds, to get the book out, and you literally got one copy. They were priced at something ridiculous, like, I don't know, anywhere between like £10 and £15 for a copy. I think even when the author was buying them, you didn't really get much of a discount, and everything was up to you. And people who did it still you couldn't trust that it was going to come out and be a good book, like a nice book. So it was, you know, but that was the only other way. I mean, now obviously there's just everywhere, and you've got Kindle, and you've got all these other avenues that you can use. You can do it completely yourself, like I do, which I'll get to more when we get to the present timeline. Yeah, I mean, but it was so new. Like iUniverse and Lulu is another company. You can check that one out as well. I never had any problems with Lulu. But then their prices were so cheap back then. So you only had to put in like, you know, I think £50 to £100, and your book was done. And you know, it was all over Amazon, and you were cartwheeling around your front room because you were so happy because you were a published author, etc. But obviously, bookshops and a lot of other places that, you know, it was still there back then. They didn't want to take a chance on you. You were an unsigned author. You know, it wasn't traditional, so there was a sense that if you self-published, you had failed with the traditional side of things. So you were taking it, you know, your way, and it's kind of where it all started off. And like I was right there, living in it at the time. So it was really like steep, you know, learning curve with everything, because it was all just brand new. Some of these companies were brand new, and you go to their website and they'd literally have like about, you know, 20 to 50 or, you know, maybe like 100 titles, but that was it. There wasn't anything else there because it was just so new. So you were, you know, the company was finding its place, and you were finding your place in the company. It was, I mean, it was an exciting time, don't get me wrong, it was an exciting time because you could kind of see where it was going, but also it was kind of a confusing time. You know, it was a bit kind of, exciting and nervous, and you know, it was. I wouldn't say expensive because a lot of these places were quite cheap back then, but you know, it was all to do with putting your money in and doing it all yourself and taking control. So, yeah. But going back to the charity thing, really quickly, I put out a book to do with bullying, children being bullied, and it's just a selection of short stories. And I met with some kids at a local school, and we put that one out, and kind of got that to as many schools as we could as well, because I really wanted to kind of, I thought to myself, well, I can help. I mean, it's weird thinking that, because I had no like voice in the book world. You know, I don't really have a voice in the book world now, to be fair. No, you know, not many people pay much attention to my books when they're published, etc. But it's subjective again. It's just, if you think that your story will reach one person and help that one person, then follow that, you know, thought in your head. I mean, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. If you write a book and one person really gets the story as you intended, you know, and they come away and they're feeling exactly, you know, as you want them to, and etc., then you've succeeded. That's your success. You know, that's where, you know, you'll be remembered as a good writer, as a good author, because you've done that. Like I say, it doesn't matter if it's one person or it's like 2 million people and you're sitting on top of the bestseller list. If you've done that, you've succeeded. You've got to kind of, I've learnt this over a long period of time. A lot of the booktubers and authortubers and things are only just starting out now, and they're young, they're in their 20s like I was. I'm like going to be 43 next month, like about a month away till my 43rd birthday, and I've been doing this since my early 20s. And, you know, it is a passion. I mean, I wouldn't have done this if it wasn't like a passion, and I love it. And there's so many things that you can get out of it. You know, you meet new people. It doesn't matter if they're in the real world or online, or but it's just, once you start it, you know, once you say right and you put your pen to the paper and you've got the words out, it starts there. And it just kind of goes from there, you know. And then, like, some people will stop. Don't get me wrong. There's people who will just stop and they're just like, no, I can't carry on. And fair play. I'm not going to say. Like I said in the other video, I think I said it anyway. But you know, you do. You think about quitting all the time. You sit and you think to yourself, why do I bother? But you just do. Another story pops up and you've got to put it down on paper, you know. So, like I say, with the books, I thought to myself, I'll put this out. It can help kids. It can help, you know. Maybe we could put some of the money to the charities, etc. You know, some of the charities in the UK that help with bullying, that kind of thing. And you know, I think we managed to get it into a few schools. So if it did help, it helped. Like I say, and I'm fine with that. That's out of print again, because now that I'm doing everything myself, like everything's myself now. I haven't got any companies like iUniverse or anything like that. It's all down to me and my money, and I'm putting it all in. Which there isn't a lot of. Very important point there. There is not a lot of money, because, like I said, I've got 4 kids. You know, and I'm a grown man and I've got to pay bills and stuff. And so finances are very tight. But I have to weigh up, like, the cost versus the reward, etc. And kind of like, even if there is no reward, like I say, sometimes I did post recently on Instagram a little clip from my sales page, and there's nothing on there. It's completely blank. I hadn't sold a book in weeks, but then this was just a clip, and it went on for a longer. There was like months there where you didn't sell anything, and I just wanted to make a point that sometimes, you know, you go on Instagram or you go on wherever, and everyone's talking about, you know, how you know, amazing that marketing thing was, or this, they got this success, or they got this you know, this amount of reviews, or they got this, that, and the other. But there's a flip side, guys. You must remember this. There is a flip side to that. There is times where you will sell nothing. You will sit there for weeks, and no one will talk about you. No one will read about you. No one will mention your book anywhere, and you will disappear. And those are the times that you've got to work through. Those are the times where you just got to think, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, and get on with it, okay? Because that's where people break. I've recently watched a comeback video. I didn't even realise it was a comeback video. Jenna the Dark One, on her channel, Authortube. She, you know, you go and watch her channel, and she is just like, you know, the epitome of energy and, you know, positivity and everything. And then at the end of the video, she gets very serious, and she says exactly the same thing. She says, we have our low moments. We come on the camera, we put on a mask, or, you know, we put on this certain persona of positivity and everything else. But there's another side to it. And like I say, I've gone off on another rant like I love to do. You know I love to rant. But you know, if I haven't got, or if I've got a certain amount of money and I think to myself, I really want to spend that on marketing, or I really want to go and buy that amount of bookmarks, or I want to put an order in for my books, but this book's finished and I really want to get that published. You really do have to juggle it out and work out to and say to yourself, what will I get the most out of? What's the best course for me now? Should I do that, put that book on hold, or just put it out on Kindle for now because Kindle's free? You know, you don't pay to put stuff out on Kindle, so I'll just maybe put that out on Kindle. The paperback can wait. I'll go down there, get the bookmark sorted, because that might bring me more in, that kind of thing, you know. So that's what I'm saying. So there's a lot of books that are out of print now, but they won't go back in print because there's financial reasons, or I've decided that there just won't be any point. Like I say, there's always the Kindle. There's always Kindle, but I do like to have Kindle paperback. I'll get to this again in the timeline thing, because I've kind of got a format now that I want to stick to, where all my books will be Kindle, paperback, and then once I've got a certain amount of that sorted out, I will do hardcovers as well, because people like hardcovers. They're kind of like, some people like to collect the hardcovers and have the whole set, etc. So I'll look into that side of things, but it's something that's going to be when I decide to do it, and financially it's possible. Yeah, it's not just going to be, I'm going to forget that marketing today, I'm going to go and do that. You know, there's all these different things you've got to think about when you do it in your head. Okay, so this is going on again. This is like a break for the phone call, but I'm tempted to call this part 2 because it just could get boring after a while. Right, so let's quickly recap. Okay, we've had a few little things there going on. So we had started off science fiction right at the very start of self-publishing, when it was brand new. Everybody was kind of like, wow, this new option that's come to me, and I can finally put my book out. So it was a very exciting time. It was, you know, for authors, it was like a new door had been opened, and everyone was like, let's just do this, let's just make this good, you know. So it was brand new. There was no such thing as Kindle and anything like that. There was no such thing like that. It was like I say, it was mostly just paperbacks through certain companies. I had a few of my books back then. Like I say, I think I've mentioned 6 books I mentioned there, didn't I? Because we had the trilogy, we had the football book, we had the bullying book, and we had the Banana Skins on the Table, which is like the contemporary kind of modern literature, that one. Some will see the light of day again, some won't. Okay. We're going to leave it there, because that takes us up to a good point, actually, because that's where I kind of think I broke off there for a little bit, because that was when my eldest son was born back in, I'm not going to say dates, but yeah, my eldest son was born, and obviously that kind of took over a lot of stuff, and there was obviously there was a lot of things going on there. So because that was, I was going to be a dad for the first time, and life was suddenly like, whoa, what am I doing? What am I doing? So, but that takes us to a nice point. We can leave it there, and then on the next one, when we go back to the history, we'll start there, because that was when one of the series that I'm still working on, started off back then. So we'll pick up with that on the next one. All right, guys, I'm going to go and muck around with all this. I'll upload it, and then like I say, if I do put another one out today, I'll see you then. If not, I'll see you during the week. All right, okay, guys, thanks for watching. See you later.